Greetings, it is I, Tantus Navran Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire. Welcome. It is time to continue my expose on the history of Magic the Gathering. We're continuing, of course, with the Battle Royale box set. Now, this was released on November 12th of 1999. Now, it contained no new keywords, no new mechanics, but it had 160 cards that consisted of it. It had no expansion symbol of its own, but the cards in the set, if it would be from a separate expansion, that expansion symbol would appear on the card. So if it was from Ice Age, it would have the Ice Age symbol. If it was from Urza's Saga, it'd have the Urza's Saga symbol. It included cards from every previous expansion that had existed. One unique factor is it contained the color set symbols. So for example, if it was from Urza's Saga, of course it would have the colored set symbols. They had it during that time. But this also means that certain set symbols, which never had been colored before, were with this new set. For example, Tempest didn't have it. There are Tempest cards that show up with the colored symbols. Now, this entire set had a multiplayer focus. It is a box set compilation focused on teaching new players how to play multiplayer Magic or to support multiplayer Magic in general. That's why a large majority of the cards actually have multiplayer uses that they affect multiple opponents. Now, it was divided up into four 40-card pre-constructed decks. The box actually also contained a strategy guide for each of these constructed decks, teaching you how to use them properly. So it would give you little hints on how to use each of these 40-card pre-constructed decks, and then would allow each player of up to four players to take them and play a multiplayer game. Each set contained 2 rares, 8 uncommons, and 30 commons. So the pre-constructed decks were a red-green called Chargoyle, a black-red called Cinderheart, a white-blue deck called Spirit Veil, and a white-green deck called the Deluge. Now let's talk about some of the cards that were released along with this set. There was Abyssal Spectre. It's a 2/3 flying that when it deals combat damage to opponent, they discard a card. There's of course Argothian Elder. It's a 2/2 that you can tap to untap 2 lands. Very good combos for that one. There's Exhume. Each player may take a creature card from their graveyard and put it into play. If you put much bigger creature cards into your graveyard very early on in the game in comparison to everyone else, you could fish them out and no one else would have anything that would quite match it. There of course was Land Tax. Now it's an enchantment that at the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you may search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Now of course this does have to be a basic land. There's Living Death. You take all the creature cards in every graveyard and set them aside. Then each player puts all creatures they have in play into their graveyards, and then they take those cards they'd set aside from their graveyards and puts them into play. So if you have some kind of combination where you wipe out your side, you can then switch everyone's sides, be the only one left with creatures. There's Mana War. It's a 2/2 creature. When it came into play, you returned target creature to its opponent's hand, to its owner's hand. There's Nekral, a 2/1 first strike that when it came into play, you chose a non-black, non-artifact creature, and you destroyed it. It could not be regenerated. Opportunity. Target player draws 4 cards. Pestilence. At the end of a turn, if there are no creatures in play, you sacrifice it. But you can pay 1 black mana to do 1 damage to each creature and each player in play. So you basically do damage across the board. If everything dies, Pestilence goes away. Prodigal Sorcerer. It's a 1/1 that can tap to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. It is the classic, it's the Timmy. There's Reanimate. You take a creature card from your graveyard and you can put it into play, but you lose life equal to its converted mana cost. It's another one of those great ones to quickly get a creature that maybe you threw into your graveyard on purpose, just to resurrect it and throw it out at your enemies. There's Rolling Thunder. It deals X damage, divided between any number of creatures or players, so you can just do X damage across the board. Seeker of Skybreak. It's a 2/1 that you can tap to untap another creature, another good one for some combos. Sengir Vampire, a 4/4 flyer that if a creature should be put into the graveyard from play and Sengir Vampire had dealt damage to it this turn, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Sengir Vampire. So if it effectively was part of killing a creature or killed a creature directly, it gets bigger. Of course, it is one of the classic creatures that are out there. Soul Warden. A 1/1, whenever another creature comes into play, you gain 1 life. Nowadays, most of creatures similar to this say you may gain 1 life. This is the exception that you always gain that life, even if you technically forgot to do it. You should have gotten that life. Spike Weaver. Now, it's a spike creature, meaning it's a 0/0 that comes into play with a number of +1/+1 counters. This one gets 3. For 2 mana, you can move a +1/+1 counter from it to another creature, or, much better, for 2 mana, you could remove a +1/+1 counter from it and prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So it's a creature that effectively had a fog-like ability built into it. There's Subversion. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life. You then gain life equal to the amount of life that was lost this way in total. So for each opponent that was losing life, for each opponent that you have, you gain 1 life. So you're just siphoning it out pretty rapidly, and especially in much larger multiplayer games, this one is pretty good. Swords to Plowshares. You exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to that creature's power, so you can get rid of a creature pretty easily. It's just you're giving its owner some life because you want to get rid of it. Unnerve. Each opponent discards 2 cards. It's one of my favorites that I still use in my discard-based deck. It's really good because, especially in multiplayer, you can just have everybody get rid of 2 cards. Windfall. Each player discards their hand. Then they draw a number of cards equal to the greatest number of cards discarded this way. So if I would have 1 card and then cast Windfall, so I'd discard 1 card, and an opponent of mine had 6, well, then I'm drawing 6 cards. That's the number of cards everyone draws. Now the last card, of course, is Wrath of God. This one it destroys all creatures in play. They cannot be regenerated. It's a classic from Unlimited that I've talked about before, but of course it's in this set, so I wanted to mention it again. So that's it for today. I introduced you to Battle Royale box set compilation. This one was focused all about multiplayer and teaching new players or players that are relatively new about how to play multiplayer, and also introducing it to more veteran players, or at least supporting playing it in them. Up until now, Magic had supported more of tournament-based play and one-on-one character or player-based play. This actually reflects a lot more of the casual gameplay, because when I was into Magic in my early years, especially during now, casual gameplay was all about multiplayer, which is something that, as I said, Magic hasn't supported up until now historically. It's not that it doesn't exist, it's just that this is the first product that reflects multiplayer that they have put out up until now. So if you need questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It shows your support for the channel, the Empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you could always check out my Patreon link in the description below. If you want to see some other great Magic content, especially during the time periods I'm not putting anything out, I can recommend Card Bazaar, They Said, We Said, and Tasty Snackies, my friends of the multiverse, allies of the Empire, that do some great content based upon Magic the Gathering also. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.